There we go. Welcome. This is a travel planner for all of you that are thinking about coming to Japan. I know that we've moved on this series from the Japan travel updates when we were trying to give you updates on what you need to do to get into the country. Now that you can, we're moving into travel planning, and we have a call-in show where you can actually join our Discord server. On this server community, you can call in, which is really cool. And then I can hear from you directly and answer some of the questions about your trip, about your itinerary, and maybe we can make that even better. I know that a lot of you have tons of questions. I can't answer you all on social media. It's just really hard to do that. So this kind of a format really benefits everybody. Before we start, I wanted, every time we do this, I want to introduce to you a new maybe day trip or place in Japan that you might not have ever heard about before. This one is called Daigo Machi. Daigo is in Ibaraki Prefecture. I get it on the map here. It is a place that actually, here's Tokyo here on the center. Of course, it says Tokyo. It's up here about an hour and a half to 2 hours away between Utsunomiya, Tochigi Prefecture. This is Fukushima Prefecture, and the Hitachi Kaihin Koen, which is the one where the blue azaleas, I think you call them, are at. This place is a paradise, and not a lot of people know about it. Daigomachi has, gosh, everything in there. They grow their own green tea up here. They have a very famous waterfall, and they have a really beautiful. Yeah, this is a waterfall that I was at for the NHK shoot. It is absolutely stunning. I mean, waterfalls are in a lot of places. I think this is the one. Yeah, this one is actually a man-made waterfall from a cafe that this guy studied how to make Japanese soba down in Kyushu, and he became a master of it. He came back and he redirected this river into a waterfall, and I did it. It's one of the most amazing experiences, and you can. I guess he also studied martial arts. You can get into this, I don't know, judo-looking uniform that he has. I just remember the experience. You go like this, and you let the water just pound your head. And it's a kind of a therapy that releases, I don't know, tension maybe. Maybe there's a lot of stuff going on in your mind. You might lose a few hairs depending on what stage you are in life. But it is a pretty unique experience, and it makes for an amazing photo too, and a story if you are looking for experiences to try here in Japan. Daigomachi, again, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Tokyo. I highly recommend that you search the city and get acquainted with it, and perhaps make a trip there, because it really is off the beaten path. And I thought, especially if you have a rental car, it is just stacked with with places to see, restaurants, rivers that really relax Japanese atmosphere that a lot of you are looking for. And there's a ton of really nice hotels there. So that's the place I'll introduce you today, and we're gonna go right into it. Let's go to the phone lines. We have on Discord a populating audience. UFO Bob is with me. Who do we got first?
Mega G.
Mega
Hello.
G. How do you do?
Can I talk?
Sure. Yeah. Well, how can we help you today?
Okay. Hi. Okay. So I live in Japan. I moved here like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I go to a Japanese school, right? And everyone speaks Japanese. Very confusing, but that's not my question. What I wanted to ask is like how to meet other foreigners in Japan, you know?
That's meeting other foreigners is usually the easy part. It's meeting Japanese who actually,
Really?
yeah, it's meeting Japanese who actually want to be your friend.
Oh, that
That
is
was the
true.
hard part. And if you already have that made, then you're golden, because the places that I used to go to were to make Japanese friends. Gosh, there's a couple of online communities. One was called Japan Guide, and I don't know if they do that anymore, but you could actually put in an ad and say where you're living, and connect with other people that are living in your area. And I was able to make a few really good friends through that. One of them is still my friend today, who lives down the street from me, which is pretty crazy. 15 years ago, I started using
That's
that
cool.
site. I guess it's a pretty big one, japan-guide.com. They used to have a
I'll
place
Google
where,
that.
yeah, they used to have a community you could put an ad on, but I don't know how the if it's still going on here. Another place is going. See, because we've been in the pandemic era, it might be a little bit more challenging. But if you just went to like your local hub, which is this chain of English pubs, there's usually a bunch of expats in there, and that's usually was
Oh,
it
that's cool.
was an easy place for me to meet other expats. But um, I was an English teacher, and we would all go out and drink there, and we would meet with other teachers. So finding one person, one foreigner, could usually open your eyes to all the other communities here. So sometimes finding the right person, somebody who maybe is an English teacher or has other friends that usually will be always been here for a while, that's usually your best way in. I would be that guy, but now I'm married and I don't go out almost never. My priorities have
Fair enough.
changed a little bit, but I do I will be doing them. Where do you live in here in Tokyo?
I live like, my Hama station.
Yeah.
I live one station away from that in Shinarayasu.
Ah,
Yeah,
Shinoriyasu. Yeah. Yeah. So if
yeah,
I
I live there.
there's a ton of foreigners in that area. But
Really, I
some of
only
them
see
are
like a few.
some of them are a little suspicious looking though. Like don't judge people by the way they look. That's what I learned. But
Fair enough, fair enough.
fair enough. Yeah,
No,
Uriyasu
it's like
was.
when you know Japanese, it's much easier, of course, to make friends with Japanese people. But it's not just about the language; it's about their personality. Because you really cannot like the majority of Japanese people don't understand humor, and like I don't mean it in an offensive way, but like foreigners' humor and Japanese people humor is just so different. And if you say a joke, they're just gonna not respond or just think that you're weird.
Oh, that's very true. Sarcasm is a type of humor that mostly Americans
Yes, that is
use.
true.
Sarcasm isn't very
Mm-hmm.
popular outside of the United States, actually. I haven't had a lot of success. Maybe Canada, but sarcasm that
Yeah.
doesn't fit too well with certain other nationalities where different kinds of humors. It's always a hard thing. But Japanese, yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
don't get the same kind of humor, slapstick humor, for example. Not maybe they do get that, but in general though for me I to make Japanese friends was always really a challenge because uh, you, people would want to maybe meet you to practice their English, right, but never really to get to know you because
Oh yeah.
they already had their circle of friends, and it's really hard to get into that next level, to get to know somebody really well to become like best friends, and that is something that I think it's hard to say. I don't think I ever really had one particular Japanese friend that was really close here because you never could get that close. Either there was, work or family or this other things or other circles, but you're really far outside of the circle. So I always thought, if you're here, it's very hard to penetrate in the middle. But if you were to join, I don't know, communities, groups, organizations, you had a hobby and you found a group and you were able to make friends out of that, those were the best starting places to do that. And I've had a lot of success because I had to move 17 times in my life here in Japan, and each time I had to start over. So
Damn.
to find new friends, I just was not shy. I would talk to people at the train
Yeah.
station. I would be able, to if
How did that go? Because like Japanese people are super closed off. You can't just walk up to them. They're just gonna be, please leave me alone. I'm gonna call the cops on you.
well,
You
nine
know
times out of
that
ten,
kind
that's
of
going to
thing.
be that 9 times out of 10, that could be the case. But I always found that, I mean, you don't
Mm-hmm.
just stand on the corner stalking people, but you can,
Yeah, fair enough.
you find a way to do it more naturally, I guess. There was a guy in Toyohashi that now that I recall, he would pick up girls outside of the station, and he was notorious at it. He was actually a really awful. He was a nice guy. He's just really awful the way he did this, but he would pick up a girl at the station all the time, just by talking to them and charming them, and would get phone numbers and dates. And he was always doing this on his lunchtime.
Damn,
I was only there for 3 months, but he seemed to do very well at it. So, which is odd because
that's
if he was
cool.
there all the time, you would think that the same girls would see this guy at the corner of the station every day doing his thing, but you know everybody's different even in Japan, and to generalize how a group of people are on the totally is maybe the wrong approach. I've always had case by case different kinds of people. I did. I love this question. I did something on Facebook about 10, maybe longer than that, 2000 and, well, like 2010, I think I started this. Was called a Yakiniku Club. And I started a community on there, and I said, look, I'm having a really tough time meeting not just foreigners, but other Japanese, Japanese too. So I created this community, and we had about 20 people show up for the first one, and then we had 29, which is great, and then we had 40, and then the community, we had a group, and then there was 400, then there was 500, and we'd have massive parties, and it was all stuff that I'd organized, and I was able to grow a community that way. If you had an idea to bring people together, sometimes instead of you being the one to go to them, maybe you create something and have people come to you. Sometimes that works, because I bet you there's a lot of people thinking the same thing, you know.
It's actually a very good idea. Did you run ads or did you just create a community and let people search for it?
Kuchikomi, word of mouth. That's the only way. And here's how it
Oh,
works,
okay.
okay? In Japan, friends will bring their friends, and then they'll bring their friends. And then when they get comfortable, they start to bring their friends. And then you start to network and,
Yeah.
and branch out like this, and it all just takes time. But if you can
Mm-hmm.
make people feel comfortable and with your group, more people will feel comfortable introducing new people to it. And I always felt that you know what we had going, I didn't make any money off of it. In fact, I lost money because when people didn't show up for reservations and stuff, it would come out of my pocket. But the overall good of it was just like, it was just incredible. People got married who met at these parties, which is such an incredible
Wow.
um, I wouldn't say achievement, but just a product of what you had created. And I really would made me sad to have to end that about 7 years ago. But yeah, that might be one way to go. Create your own posse, man. If you build it,
All right.
they will come by word of mouth, and you could just give out flyers to foreigners that you see and say, we're having a meetup, or come on over here, well, and see who shows up. You get 5 people. I guarantee you, the next time you'll have 15 if you have a good time with it. So
Exponential growth. Okay, yeah.
that's how YouTube
That's
channel
actually a
works
really
too,
good
by the
idea. I never
way.
thought of that.
Thanks
Yeah,
for the.
what?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, nothing. I just didn't hear you say. Okay. But thank you. That actually made a lot of sense, and I'll make sure to remember that and Google the thing that you said, the website.
Yeah, check
Yeah,
back
well,
in and
thank you for listening to me.
check back in and let us how it goes. And I think we have a channel here, and if you do start something, you can just let me know, and maybe we'll put something together for the Urayasu area, or something like that. That might be pretty neat. Thanks for calling in. Told by Abe, how you doing? Or is it Abe? Sorry.
Hi John, hi everyone. First time asking in Discord fight chat now.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm going to Japan late January to February 23. And after my 2019 trip to Sapporo in winter, I really love the snow there, like so soft and white. And for
Nice.
people from my country, that without winter, that's a very good place to see one, right?
Right.
And the question is, I'm hoping to see Japanese now without going to Sapporo or Hokkaido. And my future trip is the itinerary is arriving in Tokyo, then go to Hakone, Takayama, and Kyoto areas. Is it possible to see snow in some of the places? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question. At that time of year, I think it's very possible. I know that right now you can't even see snow on Mount Fuji, I believe. That usually comes like around the end of December and beginning of January. You start to see the snow really pile up. So I would say if you're looking for snow December, probably you're going to have to go to Aomori or north from there, and you might have some in Nagano, but it won't be so heavy yet. You start to see snow around January, definitely February, March, and it's usually snows around until the beginning of April, and then it starts to melt, especially in the mountainous areas. Snowfall just seems a little bit later here than in other places like the United States. We don't have that lake effect snow, or, for example. It just kind of starts slower. But when I go to onsen, and just to point out, 2019 or was a really bad year for snow. It didn't snow much in Tohoku, for example. It does always in Hokkaido, and places
Yeah.
like Ginzan Onsen was kind of sad because there wasn't snow in January. It just looked bare, which is odd. So I don't know if
Even in Gonsan Onsen, huh?
yeah. So I think if you're looking for snow, end of January and all of February and almost all of March, you probably can find it in the mountains. Takayama probably has a high chance of having snow in February. Again, like it's hard to predict because if the weather could change and it rains and it all melts away and then it snows again. You have snowstorms and then the next week it gets warm again, so it's really hard to predict. When
Yeah,
and you
it
can't
can change rapidly, huh? The snow
exactly.
can disappear like in a day or so.
Right. And if you're looking for snow in Kyoto, for example, good luck because it doesn't snow there that often and it's usually just a little powder, which really makes the temples and shrines stand out at that time of year. But you have to like get on the train that morning and get there after the snow to really enjoy Kyoto or be there and be lucky enough to be there at the time. As long as you're going to the mountains and you're getting out of Tokyo, it usually snows once or twice a year. And
Wow,
when it
okay.
snows, it usually melts like 48 hours later. And this area around Tokyo doesn't get a lot of snow. You have to really go up to Tohoku. Aomori is the capital of snow, which oddly enough is
Yeah,
not in Hokkaido, and that probably is the best
but
place to
Aomori
go.
is very up north, right? Like very far from Tokyo, I think.
On the Tohoku Shinkansen, it's 3.5 hours to get to Aomori.
Oh,
It's on the. You don't even need a JR Rail Pass to get there. You can take the JR East Pass, which is only 20,000 yen, for 5 days of unlimited travel to Tohoku. If you're looking for snow, that's a bargain for 20,000 yen. You can get 5 days of unlimited travel up into the snow countries. And you can get that pass at Tokyo Station. There's a couple of windows around the station that will sell that pass with your passport. You got to bring that. And you can be residents of Japan. You can be residents of Japan to get that pass because I use it all the time because it's so cheap. It's
yeah.
14,500 yen for one trip just to get to Aomori on the Shinkansen, and it's 20,000 yen for 5 days of unlimited travel. So if you go there and come back, you've made out like a bandit. You've saved like 10,000 yen on one day trip.
Yeah. A real bargain, huh?
Yeah. I hope you do get some snow though, because Japan is really magical at that time of year. But as long as you're going through the mountains and stuff, and Takayama looks like there should have a high possibility of it. Taka meaning high and Yama meaning mountain, right? So
Well, yeah, that's really interesting to know.
yeah.
And what I know about Takayama is it's a little bit like Kyoto, right? And there's a much higher possibility to have snow there. So I kind of think like that's a very magical place to see snow, like with the Kyoto scenery, you know.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Takayama is better than Kyoto. I'm just gonna put that out there. Kyoto is a city that's really spread out, and I never liked traveling around. Of course, you're walking up Higashiyama, for example, from Kiyomizudera down, to the park there. That's always nice. But Takayama is a magical little town, all right, with history and culture. You got Hidagyu, amazing beef there, great food, everything's fresh, really small town hospitality. It's so much better than Kyoto. So is Kanazawa for that matter. The Higashichaya region. I always tell people, yeah, you got to go to Kyoto, but there's so many places that are so much better that have that same kind of that have a better charm to it than Kyoto. But you still have to go to Kyoto. Thanks for the question. Who do we got here first? We got two people in.
Yeah, let's go with Nate first, and then we'll go with Jalen.
Nafe, how you doing?
Unmute your mic there, Nate. All right, tell you what, let's go with Jalen. We'll come back.
Hi, John. Thank you for having me. My
All right, let's go with Nafe since you're unmuted. Jaywin, hold on a second here. How can we help you today, sir?
sorry, I'm on a train from Takayama to Nagoya, so my voice might not be that clear, but I'll make it quick. My question is, just after the FIFA World Cup started last night, Do you know any, let's say, recommendations for places to watch football matches in Tokyo?
It's a good question. I'm not too much into the World Cup, to be honest with you. So I'm not really sure. They used to in 2002 when they had the World Cup in Japan. They actually used Hachiko Scramble and a few other places. They had set around these viewing platforms all around the city. It was pretty incredible. Even outside of Tokyo, you had viewing platforms all over the place. The sports bar that I went to, which is called Legends in Roppongi, is closed, and that was a place that I was always go to. But there are sports bars in Tokyo, and I guarantee you that they're all going to be tuned in, especially when Japan plays, to the World Cup and the big matches. There's a very big Brazilian population in Japan, so I bet you the Brazil games probably get some play. More so in Nagoya, because Nagoya has more Brazilians than I think any other major city in Japan. I used to live in Toyohashi, as I said before, and when the World Cup, I was there during the World Cup, and it was great because we had like an amazing Brazilian community, and the vibe was good. To get back to your question, though, I honestly don't know. I missed the World Cup match last night because I was editing, and I haven't. I don't, for some reason, I'm not into it as much this year as I was in other years, but I probably will be. Now that it has started. But yeah, I'm not too sure. There's several sports bars. A lot of them are in the Roppongi area or Shibuya, Harajuku. There's a couple of them. I think even Shinjuku might have them, but since the pandemic, a lot of them closed down or suspended business. So I'm not sure who's still around right now. I have a problem with the Ohio State Michigan football game because we used to watch it at Legends and that no longer exists. Where are we going to watch it now? So that's an issue. We're probably just all going to stay home. But yeah, that's an issue. And with the eighth wave now hitting Japan, we just started that about 3 days ago. I don't know how antsy Japanese businesses are going to be. Probably it'll be okay. But yeah, just use Google Maps and look for sports bars and go on their websites. Usually, sports bars have rugby and other sporting events around the world, especially at night, because Japan is sleeping from like 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. But the world is having their big sporting events, and bars can be open at that time. So they usually have English pages to get all sorts of clientele in there. And a lot of expats have started sports bars for that exact same reason. Just we've lost a lot of them over the last couple of years. How's the train? Are you on the Special Express from going into Nagoya now?
I'm on the Hida line, heading to Takayama.
Oh, that's so cool. How is the weather in Takayama?
It was pretty nice. The temperature was around like 6 in the morning, but we were staying at an onsen in Shin Hotaka Onsen, and it was pretty nice onsen.
Are you meeting a lot of other travelers from other countries?
I'm traveling with my friend, so we're planning to stay 2 nights at a capsule hotel in Tokyo. So we might also, meet other, let's say, foreigners and travelers there.
Which area in Tokyo will you be staying in? Shinjuku?
In Akasaka.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's a sports bar not too far from there that's playing the World Cup. Each one is different. Just try to find one with really big TVs and stuff, because the newer ones are pretty good and the older ones can be a little bit rough around the edges. But I know that there's got to be some places playing it in here. And if we can find this out, we'll put it in our Discord server. UFO Bob, which community would we use for that?
I would use general chat
A general
at
chat.
this point, because I think there are other people in the same position who want to know that information.
Yeah, general chat, or I think we had one for expats, that live here. Did we have one? No, I don't think so.
No. It doesn't sound familiar.
It doesn't sound. Maybe we'll have to start something like that. we'll come up.
Yeah, why not?
We'll come up with some ideas to help make it more relevant. We have an expat in the Discord onsen community, so that might be a place to put it there. It's got 2 little Japanese flags in there, and then that's a locked community, though, I think. You have to be.
We do have a expat channel. expats.
Is that a closed community?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so if you do live in Japan and you want to get access to the expat channel, just I guess let us know.
Yep, just let us know. We can make an arrangement.
We'll make an arrangement and put you in there. So we have expats that are chatting in there, and maybe we'll open up. We'll consider opening up a new category because I think it's pretty good. Like having a those that are in Japan right now sharing information. I want to do more of that. So I'm really happy, Knife, that you called in and you could share some information with us about your trip. And if you have any great photos, please do post them in the photos group that we have on Discord too, because I love seeing that. Man, do I want to go to Takayama right now.
Sure, will do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome. Jaywin, how you doing?
Hey, I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I'm getting a little bit warmed up now here. Where are you today?
So I'm actually in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Awesome. Doesn't sound so warm.
Yes, you're 100% correct. It's actually, I think the last time I checked, it was 27 degrees, and we have about 2 inches of snow right now. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, I guess if it's gonna be cold, it's better if there's some snow around.
That's correct. So, yeah, I know it's dreadful when it's super cold, it's super sunny, so it's really deceiving when you look out the window because it's like, oh, maybe a nice warm day, and as soon as you step outside, you definitely need to be bundled up to stay warm and make sure that you keep yourself warm and don't get frostbite.
Yeah, we get a ton of viewers from Minnesota. Actually, I'm really happy to hear from you guys up north, the state of 10,000 lakes. What can I do for you for traveling here in Japan?
So the biggest thing, I'll just keep it nice and short, so we can get other members in here. But the biggest question that I have, so I'm traveling for the first time, sometime hopefully early or mid August. I know that I've heard from previous travelers. Hopefully, it is true. It's a little bit cheaper around that time. But my only question that I have is, I'm going to be doing a lot of shopping because I'm going to hopefully stay out there for 3 weeks. My biggest thing is, how late do stores or shops stay open? Are they, and then with that as well as if I'm going to be traveling to these stores, how late does the train stations stay open till, or if that's politically, if that's not the correct way to say that?
I think I can answer that pretty quickly. In general, stores are open either 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. It just depends on the store. Supermarkets are typically open until about 10 p.m. Some of them might even be open till midnight, depending on where they are. Out in the countryside, though, like away from urban centers, supermarkets would typically close around 6 p.m., 7:30 sometimes. The best way to check it out is to have Google Maps and then just tap that location, and you'll see what the hours are of the stores around where you're staying. I do that when I travel too, because I want to figure out, I'll scope out places in advance just to make sure I have a place to eat, for example, because sometimes restaurants will close early depending on the community that you're in. For the train stations though, last train is typically around between 11 and 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. And depending on where you are, you might want to go a little bit earlier. But yeah, out in the countryside, the last trains, they go pretty late, but you might not be able to get all the way to the destination that you want to go if you leave that late. For example, the last Shinkansen, I believe, from Osaka going back to Tokyo is around 10:40 or 10:30 p.m. But that's a Shinkansen, right? Local trains are completely different. Subways, JR will go on until a little bit after 1 a.m. And the subway typically starts shutting down between midnight and 12:30, with some last trains, depending on the station, might be coming through between 12:30 and 1 a.m. It just depends on the line.
That's awesome because I plan on doing a lot of traveling. I have a couple of friends out there that are active Navy, and they live off base. So I'll be traveling a lot through trains to visit and obviously commute to see them a lot and go back and forth. So that definitely helps a lot. So I really appreciate it, John.
You're welcome. You probably want to start making your way back then, like around 10 p.m., which gives you maybe 15 minutes of leeway in case you get delayed, which often happens. So as long as you're walking towards the station at 10 p.m., you're gonna be okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. We had here also somebody in the chat asked about a family-friendly ryokan or an onsen for families. The answer is that they're all really pretty good for families. Japanese families will typically go to onsen resorts, so there's no way to say one is better than the other. They're all really good with dealing with families. There are rooms that are dedicated to families. They have meal plans for families. You'll have a table at your dinner or eat it in the room for families. There's Kusatsu Onsen is very well set up for onsen tourism, for hot spring tourism with some amazing ryokan. Takaragawa Onsen is one of my favorites. I used to go there every year. Not so much recently. I even did a video of it on the old channel, which was I think had some memorable scenes in the snow. I can't think of an onsen that is not family friendly. So yeah, if you're kind of shy or you have tattoos or you've never been into a Japanese hot spring before, it might be good to have a room with a private onsen, and there's a lot of them. So you just have to Google that and find out. There's just too many that I could recommend. I don't care if I have a private. I don't actually want the onsen in my room, to be honest with you, because I want to get out of the room. Typically, we want to be out and have an experience, and the room is a place to relax, away from the bath, to get away from the bath. To be that's my feeling. I'd rather have a view out the window than I would to have a private bath. Although it is convenient to have that. I find that if you have a private bath, you don't leave the room much, and that's not always ideal. And in the winter, you want to be outside in the snow. There's nothing better than bathing naked in the snow. In Japan with like a surreal environment all around you. Thanks for asking the question in the chat there. I think we have here Mega Fighter 54. How you doing today?
Good, and it's actually 54.
Okay.
If you read the name, you can understand why. Anyway, good to see you, man.
Yeah, nice to hear from you too.
So this one is about foreigners. There's more correctly, what are the big don'ts and do's if a foreigner, say like me, goes to Japan? Because after the Logan Paul incident with the suicide forest, I want to know what are the best ways to properly behave without acting like an ignorant tourist and stuff. Because there are people who've tried too hard and just look stupid.
Yeah.
Just because they love Japan and they love the otaku culture, but the thing is, these are people, not anime loving nut jobs. Okay,
Right.
Right.
I follow you. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, and look, I'm a Godzilla fan, but I'm not gonna try to force that on people. It's shit. I just keep some things to myself. But you heard my question, right?
I got it. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I can answer this one here.
Because this is very important for guys like me who want to go to Japan without looking like jerks and stuff,
Well,
compared to that
I mean,
Paul idiot.
Are you a jerk in normal life in the U.S.?
I'm a bit sarcastic, but I do my best to behave.
All right, I got you. Well, in that case, I can't recommend anybody changing who you are to come to Japan to try to fit in. I always found that trying to fit in never really works because you never will fit in. And I've been here for 25 years almost, and I don't fit in, and I embrace that. But I think just having doing your very best to be polite and understanding, maybe do more listening than speaking. The hardest thing, the thing that really aided me with life here in Japan compared to the US, one of the skills that I learned, and which I might have learned in later life living in the US too, was to just kind of look around the room and look around the area and get a sense or feeling of the people around you and trying to separate myself from what I see around me and then being able to read the room, because that's such a that's a real skill I think that everybody should develop. And I think it's just harder in the US because I do think more I did think more about myself, and here I thought more about the people around me. Like when you see somebody with an empty sake glass, you want to be there to refill it, right? That was something that was like, now all of a sudden I'm looking at everybody's drinks and, you know, trying to be somebody who's refilling the drinks around me so I can be polite. But that also helped me take a step back, and then I started applying that just naturally to everything around me, and noticing things. When I give a speech now, I'm not just thinking about the words that I'm saying, but I'm looking at the audience and playing and reacting off of that. So, you know, there's a time where you can be, you know, rowdy and crazy and stuff, and there's a time where you have to read the room and say that's not this place. And again, it is really a skill. But as a guest and a visitor to Japan, I don't think that there's a lot that you can do wrong. What that YouTuber that you mentioned, Logan Paul, he knew what he was doing was pretty rude and bad. I mean, that was pretty insensitive, the stuff. He was looking for that, to be shocked to his YouTube channel. I mean, if you're looking for stuff like that, then you're probably not going to be received very well here. And he was just being an overall jerk. But if you're, and I, you know, I'm sure he's a changed person now. But if you're just coming to Japan and you're really worried about what other people are going to think about you, you're already then thinking about, you're already caring about the other people's feelings. And that's a really great step. So just the fact that you asked that question shows that you really care about it. And I'm sure you're going to have a really good time. There's, in terms of do's and don'ts, I break them all the time. You know, Westerners are a lot chattier, but that's not really true either, because I see Japanese that are chatting all the time, usually quite loudly on the trains. I mean, the stereotypes don't really follow it, but I have to be more particularly careful, especially when I'm not live streaming, because when I'm live streaming, I'm in a zone. But I am also trying to read the area around me. Sometimes I miss the chat as a result. But you know, if you're walking and eating, there's a bunch of rules that they say that you can't do, but people are doing that all the time. Just if you see people doing it around you, it's probably okay to do it. That's why I think observing the environment that you're in will be a big indication of what you can and cannot do. That's always been what I have done, and that's what Japanese do. They just follow what everybody else is doing. If you want a perfect example, go to a traffic light, and when there's no cars coming, okay, and you're in a local neighborhood, but it's a red light and you're not allowed to cross. Everybody stops. One person crosses the street, and then a bunch of people just follow you, and they start crossing the street too on the red light. It's crazy. It just takes that one person to just break the conventions and go ahead to do it. I always thought that was hilarious. I don't do it in my own neighborhood because a dog doesn't doo-doo in his own house because your neighbors are always watching you. I do it in other neighborhoods. It's okay there. But the point is observing around you and then doing as what everybody else is doing, because they don't also know what the rules are either. Other than that, you know, there's not a lot I can say. I just want you to have a good time, and I want you to be who you are. But just if you're considerate of the people around you, then you'll be just fine. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. There's always going to be jerks who come here. There's going to be jerks who go everywhere, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But again, like, just asking that question shows that you really care, and you're already on the right path in terms of that. I appreciate the question. I'll give it some more thought, and then perhaps even make a video on this based on the feedback that I get, because I think it's something that a lot of people are also thinking about. Thanks for the question. Maza0015, how you doing? How you doing?
Oh, can you hear me? Hello.
Oh, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, apologies for that. John, afternoon, how are you? It's actually Malcolm. And I'm looking to travel to Japan next year, around 7th to 23rd of April next year. Pretty much spending a week in Tokyo, and then the rest of the time down in Kyushu. I had some very specific questions, but one thing I want to mention is, I know you've mentioned it on your channel before, was plane ticket prices and the tracking of plane ticket prices. And I actually booked my tickets to Japan, 6, 7, 9 months ago. And I got it for Australian dollars. I got it for 3,500 Australian dollars for my entire family. So 2 adults, 2 kids. If I was to book those same flights today, it would be 11,500 Australian dollars. So, and I actually went through on the website and had a look and could see that the plane's still pretty much fundamentally empty. So I thought that was a bit timid. I know you've talked to me on your channel before, so yeah,
Wow.
insane prices. But I had very specific questions. Was whether at that time in April, 7th of April, I do apologize. I can't hear you. I can see you. I can see you the YouTube, but I can't actually hear you through the Fireside app. So I do apologize for that.
Okay. So in that case, you're probably hearing a delay of about maybe 10 seconds or so. It could be pretty bad. So, but
Okay.
yeah, I just asked
the
you.
Sakura. I was wondering if you could see the Sakura at that time, from the 7th to the 13th in Tokyo.
Sorry, what's the question again?
Sakura. If you could see the cherry blossoms.
Oh, Sakura.
From
Okay.
the 7th to the 13th.
7th to the 13th till April, it's over in Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you'll have
that's
some.
bad news. Oh,
Well, I wouldn't say it's bad news. I think some varieties might be blooming. There's more than one. There's Some Yoshino is starts to bloom around the 18th of March, and around the 26th of March, the first rain or wind starts to blow them away. And around April 2nd, usually you start to see them in the rivers and in the water and on the ground all over the place. And by the 7th, yeah, there's not that much hanging around. Every year's different. I can't predict the weather. But if you just travel a little bit inwards, maybe towards, Kawaguchiko or up towards Tohoku, you'll catch the cherry blossoms because they bloom about a week to 10 days later. And Hirosaki starts to bloom around the 20th of April. So you can also just grab a train pass and then follow it up north and catch the cherry blossoms on a day trip on the Shinkansen. So it's not like you miss it. You just have to travel a little bit to catch it again.
okay, that's some good advice. But in traveling to Kyushu, would definitely be missing the cherry blossoms,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, Kyushu does start around Tokyo is probably the first place to have the cherry blossoms open outside of Okinawa because it's just warmer in Tokyo than it is sometimes in Kyushu. It just gets more sunlight. I don't know. I do know that when I went down to Kyushu in 2017 to hitchhike, I was following the cherry blossoms up north to Hokkaido, and I was too early going to Kyushu in March 20th, but they were already blooming in Tokyo, which is weird because Kagoshima is further like southwest of Tokyo. So I couldn't figure out why does Tokyo blooming and this area I was a week early. So again, it's hard to predict the temperature, but Kyushu typically you would probably be either at the last part of the full bloom. Maybe you'll get lucky. Are you going to Fukuoka? That's also matters. Are you going to Fukuoka, Kagoshima, Kumamoto? Which area in Kyushu?
Yeah, we're flying from Tokyo to Oita, Beppu,
Oita.
Yufuen,
Okay.
Kurakawa Onsen, Mount Aso, Kumamoto, up to Fukuoka and Nagasaki. Yeah, pretty much we're hiring a car once we arrive in Oita and then driving around for a week and a half.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the question. I'm pretty sure that if you're going up to Kurokawa Onsen up near Mount Aso, you're going to get some cherry blossoms up there sometime in the beginning of April. But because you're at elevation. But in general, I would say cherry blossoms. There's a chart that will help you out because every year they have a forecast that'll come out probably around January. I don't know how accurate it is, but every year it's roughly about the same. Tokyo starts blooming around you see the first blossoms around the 16th, 17th, 18th. Then they really start coming in around the 22nd, 23rd, and then usually around the 28th, the first rain or wind blows them away, and it's a hard predictor. I might be wrong this year. I might be earlier. It could even be later. I think last year was the earliest it had been in many years. So, I know that you can follow them up north if you missed them in Tokyo. It's not the end of the world. The blossoms bloom with nature, not people's itinerary. My favorite place to go for the cherry blossoms is Hirosaki and Aomori, and that's April 20th to about 24th. Usually you have Mankai, which is the peak of the cherry blossoms. And if you miss it there, you can go up to Sapporo and catch it in May. All right, so you can get the cherry blossoms one way or another. You're going to find them at that time of year. All right, I'll take a couple more questions here. We have Monkey Mama in the house. How you doing?
Hi, John. How are you? Thanks
Pretty
for having me here.
You're welcome.
Hi. Yeah, first time I'm trying to get on and ask a question. And yeah, I've been following your channel a lot and learned a lot from you. And I really enjoyed the live that you did yesterday with your son.
With Leo,
Because I
yeah.
love the Shinkansen myself, and my son does too. So it's like really enjoyable one to watch.
Yeah, it's. I was surprised to see all the other fathers bringing their sons onto the sons and daughters on the platform too. That people were thinking the same on a nice day like that, nice Sunday.
Yes. So yeah, I'm very excited because we're going to Japan next month, and it has been 3 years. We went right before the pandemic. We were in Kyushu, and it was a great trip. And we came back, and the power broke loose, and we haven't been to Japan since then. And so we're like super excited. And one of the highlights of my trip, I have a question about. I think I have the answer, but I just want to see what you think. We're going to Wakula Onsen, which is about an hour away from Kanazawa. I believe during December in that region, it's probably going to snow, right? Not heavy snow, probably, but what do you think?
It could. The Sea of Japan side is typically cooler. I'm gonna be in Niigata in the first week of December in a couple of weeks from now, so we're gonna find out. But there's no snow there now. I'm not sure what Kanazawa is gonna be like, but I think Kanazawa is a little bit further south. I'm not sure how much snow. The Sea of Japan probably gets more snow than of course on this side of Japan in the Tokyo region. It's hard to predict. December is a little bit early for snow, but it's always possible.
Yeah, we'll be prepared. I just want to get some idea, and we're definitely going to head to Kanazawa. We've been there once and just loved it. I agree with you. I prefer that over Kyoto.
That's a huge tip. If you spend less time in Kyoto and spend maybe a couple of days in Kanazawa, and then write me, and then you'll thank me. Kyoto is so stressful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I went there. We stayed in Kanazawa for 3 nights, and I just like it so much. And we make a day trip to Shirakawago, and it was also very nice. And I found it much easier to travel around in Kanazawa. And also Takayama, I agree with you. I went there too some years ago, and I loved them. I like them over Kyoto. I know a lot of people love Kyoto. They probably hate me if I say that, but I share the same feelings that you.
Well, I think that the people who really love Kyoto, there's nothing wrong with that. It is a really special city. I just think they haven't been to a lot of other places yet.
Okay. Because Kyoto is the typical first time you go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, we're looking forward to the trip. Also, it's a very special one too because I spent a lot of time researching for onsen ramen that would be able to accommodate my son's special diet, and it was a lot of rejections. Basically, they rejected very politely in Japanese, and so I finally found this place that they say they could accommodate. And they have been great with the communications and everything, and make sure that so I'm really grateful and we're excited for it.
Where are you calling from, Monkey Mama?
Oh, I'm from San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, so it's not too cold here, but there's pretty good. So I actually don't mind cold, so I love going to Japan in December.
Well, you're coming at a good time because it's pretty exciting. There's not
Yes.
as many tourists yet, but you might be a little bit too early for the snow. But I've got my fingers
It's
crossed
okay.
that we'll get something coming soon. Although it's a pretty warm day in Tokyo
Yeah.
today.
Oh, really?
I know.
As long as it's cool enough for me to use the hot spring, that's all I care for.
Oh, you can use a hot spring for sure. That should be good.
Yeah,
That should be
that's what
fun.
I'm there. That's one of the main thing I'm there for. So as long as it's cool enough for that, then absolutely. I don't need snow. I just need it to be cool enough to use the hot spring. So yeah. So I guess I'll report back. Let you know how that goes.
Absolutely. I'll try to do these call-ins, every Monday. So just it's Monday here in Japan. So yeah, pop back in if you have any questions or if you're traveling and share your trip with us because we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we'll take one more question here from the Discord chat, call-in chat. And thanks to everybody. If you'd like to join us for the next one next week, there's a link in the live chat here and in the description of this video. Just download the Discord app and it's free and you can just call in. And the community, we have about 16,000, I think, 16,000 people in it. A lot of people are traveling here in Japan, sharing their trip with us, and it's kind of exciting to see where they are. As well as other YouTubers. Static, how you doing?
Hi, John. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Nice, beautiful, sunny day outside there, so nothing to complain
Oh
about.
God, that sounds exciting. We've got it all dark and snowy here in Toronto.
Oh, geez, you can see the sun just pounding me. It didn't start out this way.
Oh man, that sounds beautiful. Yeah, we're in for a harsh winter this time.
Yeah. How can I help you today?
So, John, I'm planning to travel somewhere in between March for about 3 to 4 weeks. But then, as someone who's just watched and seen Japan through YouTube and etc., I don't know exactly where do I start from, or what are some places that you would recommend, like a first-time traveler to go to, right? Like you obviously hear the main cities, go to Tokyo, go to Kyoto, go to places like that. But there are a lot of things that I know, like you understand as someone who lives there. Some people even speak about the countryside. But then, yeah, I kind of wanted to know from you, as a first-time traveler, what are some of the places that you would recommend?
The thing is and thank you so much for the question. For first-time travelers, I recommend, it just depends on how much time you also have. If you just have, let's say, 10 days, between 10 days and 2 weeks, if you're traveling really far to get to Japan, you probably should take at least 10 days. And most of the people, when we recommend places outside in the countryside, it's usually for people for their second trip or repeaters to Japan, and we've got a lot of them. Usually you'll fall in love. Japan is a place, I don't know anybody who says, I hated Japan, I don't want to go there again. Because when you compare it with other places, with the food, the scenery, the hospitality, the experience, the train travel, it's just such a beautiful country. I would say with your first trip, you probably should get to know the country as much as possible, which means, you do go to Tokyo, you do go to Osaka, you do go to Kyoto, you do go to Himeji Castle and go check that out. You do get that stuff out of the way because it's on the same Shinkansen line. The Tokaido Sanyo Shinkansen is so easy to connect. It's very easy to put that kind of a trip together. I would make sure you add Hiroshima. I used to live there, so I'm very proud of the beautiful city that is. And there's no denying the history of Hiroshima and the tragedy that happened. And it's in everybody's history books. But to go there and to see that, because this is still in modern times, people are still alive from that area. It really does put a lot of stuff in life in perspective, and you can see the Japanese spirit through that awful tragedy, which is war. So Hiroshima, more than just the Peace Dome, the Peace Museum, and the Genbaku Dome, the atomic bomb dome, that is just hands down probably the most livable city. And it's so easy to walk down the Honduri, or the main shopping street, go get some Hiroshima okonomiyaki, which is like a Japanese pancake that they're very famous for. They have got an entire center built just to eat different kinds of it there. That's just a wonderful city. But more than just the city, there's Miyajima, which is the island, which is 15 minutes on JR, 45 minutes on the tram to get there. A 15-minute ferry ride across from Miyajima Station to the island. Oh my gosh, you gotta go to Miyajima. That's probably the top site in Japan. It's probably one of the top 3 sites every year because of the deer, because of the big floating torii gate. The sunsets are extraordinary. There's great street food and very easy to get eats. And you don't need more than a day really, but I always tell people if you spend the night, you're rewarded with no tourists in the morning, and walking the streets at night. It is just so relaxing to be there in the morning before the tourists start to hoard into Miyajima Island. So I would do that on your first trip. Definitely visit Miyajima. You could go to Nara as well. Hiroshima Peace Museum. I would stay maybe 2 nights in Kyoto. Go see Arashiyama, the Higashiyama area with Kiyomizu-dera. You can go see Gion, but try to stay out of the city from there because you want to be in touch more with nature and see the temples and shrines. The time of year also makes a big difference. Takayama, for first-time travelers, Takayama is this really great village that is really used to tourists in Gifu Prefecture. It's easy to get there from Nagoya. And I would recommend going there if you want to take a look at the countryside as an introduction to the Japanese countryside, because they're just so well prepared for foreign tourists. I took my mom there 20 years ago, and she loved it. And that's a high bar. And she ended up leaving with these faceless dolls. I got one right here, actually, Takayama. These faceless dolls called Sarubobo. Look at this guy's not doing too well. I think it's time to wash him. It says Hida on the side there, which is the region. She bought a bunch of these. So these Sarubobo, they're so iconic from that region in Takayama. But I would maybe put a night there, and you're probably gonna wish that you'd done 2 nights there. And then after you've seen all that, you're gonna say, I spent too long in Tokyo. So I think for Tokyo, 2 nights, if you really want to see Japan, is enough for your first trip. 3 nights, yeah, you could probably do okay, but I would recommend at least 10 nights for 10 days minimum for any trip to Japan. You do what you can do. You can take the time that you can take off, but 10 days is not a lot of time if you're traveling so far to get to an island on the other side of the world. That's a big deal. If you're in Singapore, then you could probably do it, because it's so much closer. But even Australia, that's still quite a hike. Anywhere from Australia is quite a hike. And most of the backpackers and travelers I met, they were out for like a month. They were traveling for quite a long amount of time because everything was far from New Zealand, for example. The first travelers that amazed me were the Kiwis and the Aussies, because whenever they leave the country, they have to go really far. So when they leave, typically, this is 20 years ago, they would typically leave for quite a long time. And the Kiwis that I met when I was on a 45-day backpacking trip in 1997, I was on a 3-month trip then. No, wait, hold on. The first time I went to Istanbul was the first time I started meeting people like hardcore backpackers. And a lot of them were on backpacking trips for a year or more. I said, how could you do that? I said, how can you do that? Because don't you have a job? Don't you have work? He goes, look, you can that's when I realized that you can do that. I guess I should say. At first I was like, really, you can do that? And he says, you can do that. Wait a second, you can do that. You can take a year off and just backpack. And you can find odd jobs and make money and make a living somehow getting from place to place. Interesting. Never thought that was ever an option until I actually went out there and I met New Zealand Kiwis and Aussies that were doing that because they're so far away from their home, and so it's so expensive to get back. It seemed like half of the population of New Zealand was traveling at one particular time. I don't know if it's the same now, but 25 years ago it was very much like that. Japan so far, so 10 days I think is kind of the minimum itinerary, but you, again, take what you can take. Thanks everybody for the questions today. I wanted to do this for just an hour, so the peso equation is busted today. But if you do have some questions here, I tried to look at the live chat and I'm sure I missed a great many of them. You can leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them on the top if there's something that everybody's thinking about in the next one of these. But I'll try to do one every Monday morning as a live stream that you can call in and talk with me and discuss your itinerary, and perhaps we can add a couple of things to maybe even make it better, because I think that that's my biggest, I don't know, my biggest happiness, I guess, for your trip would be if I could add anything to it to make it just a little bit better. Then I think it's like a huge victory for all this that I do for what is called the Only in Japan series. This is the greatest takeaway for me. Thanks, everybody. I'll take one question here because I do have about a minute. Is there anything in the chat here?
John?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, John, actually, there is one. Thorby was wanting to know how much he could expect to pay on toll roads.
Okay, Thorby wants to know about the highway toll roads. You expect to pay a lot more than you thought you would. I've got a ETC card. When you rent the car, you're gonna want to ask for an ETC card because it just saves time. Toyota Rent-A-Car rents those out for 300 yen a day, and you pay at the end. When you return the car, you'll pay for the charges on the ETC card, so you don't have to always have cash on you or whatnot. Also, the lines to pay by cash can be quite long. You're gonna want to have those ETC, like fast pass straight through the toll booth cards in your car in order to get through there. Last time I drove from Tokyo to Nagoya, I think it was like 7,000 yen, which is like $50. And if you come back the same day, I can't remember. I knew it was over 7,000 yen. Typically it's expensive. I think to Nagano, I think I paid about 6,000 yen or something. It's quite high. In the end, probably the rental car comes out to be about the highest total, and then the tolls are almost as much as the rental car sometimes. So it's like, what? And the gasoline, of course, is quite high. So you can just whatever the rental car price is, typically just multiply that by 2.5 for gas, and for depending on the car that you rent, for gas and tolls, depending on if you're going to take the highway, and then you have the true cost of the rental of the car rental. But if you have a family and you're looking for convenience and you have a lot of luggage and you don't mind paying a little bit more off of the Shinkansen, it's well worth it. That's a great question. It's hard to say. You know what? If you put the destination on Google Maps and you put in like from Tokyo to this place and it tells you to take the highway by car, I'm pretty sure it tells you the toll prices or gives you an estimate. I think it does. But I never worried about it because there's nothing I can do about it, and I would just pay for it on that ETC card and then just pay it all at the end. Or nowadays, with the ETC card, it comes right out of my bank account. There's not much. There's toll people are like criminals. Used to be on Sunday. If you traveled on the highway on Sunday, you can go anywhere in Japan. It would only cost you 1,000 yen. I don't know if they do that anymore, but that was, meant that the highways are always really packed on Sunday because people were trying to save some money. Great question. And if you have another one, you can ask me next week. What areas of Tokyo are best to stay in where there aren't a billion tourists? Shibamata, which is a really awesome little town. Just stay away from, don't stay in, Arakicho was pretty cool for inside of Tokyo. That's near Yotsuya, I believe. Don't stay in the center of Shinjuku, Shibuya. Don't stay in those places, and you'll have a pretty good experience. Ryogoku is a sumo neighborhood. I always thought that was kind of a neat neighborhood to get a hotel in. Monzen Nakacho, which is a little bit outside from Tokyo Station, in more of a shitamachi kind of a feel to it. I still think that Asakusa is a great place to stay, and I don't think that you see, because a lot of locals do live there. It's more residential than Shibuya, for example. So you're mixing in with a lot of locals in Asakusa and that region. Kuramai is also a really nice place with a lot more affordable budget guest houses, and youth hostels are there. That's right near Asakusa. So, but if you're looking for places where there aren't a billion tourists, good luck with that. It's Tokyo, so you're gonna have that if you're staying in the big touristy areas. But those suggestions I gave you, I think will help you quite a bit. Even in Ikebukuro is more residential, so I think you're gonna have more of a normal experience than compared to staying in Shibuya. I would never stay in Shibuya, but that's me. Everybody has different styles and places that they want, and my recommendation is always going to be Asakusa as your primary. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow, probably in another live stream. A midnight snack run will be coming one of these days, but I got to be honest with you, I'm trying to diet a little bit and get in better shape. It's getting a little bit hard because it's Christmas time, and I kind of want to have some Christmas cookies and definitely some more Toll House chocolate chips. So I'll see you next time. Thank you, UFO Bob. Thank you, Peso, and Hello Hi821 for moderating.
It's a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.